The Preston vs. Elijah podcast was recorded in front of a live Twitch audience. We record the first and third Wednesday of every month at around 9 o'clock Pacific time. I'm going to be real with you. Our time for recording has now changed, mainly because I'm now a part of directing and producing another podcast, Two Dads, One Tub, which records right before we record this one. So I guess go check out that podcast at twitch.tv/The Night Shift starting at 6:30 Pacific time. And well, if you're in another time zone, figure it out. West Coast, best coats. Enjoy the podcast. Bye! My mic is so hot. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the Preston vs. Elijah podcast. My name is Preston, and wait a second. You're not Elijah.
I'm not?
No.
What do you mean?
Who are you? What do you want?
Who's asking?
Me? Preston. Of Preston vs. Elijah fame? Question mark?
Okay. I'm Kylie of Kai Cozy Streams fame.
Kai Cozy Stream, the stream that's airing all week on twitch.tv/Preston vs. Elijah?
All week, baby.
Wait, while Elijah's out of town at Orlando, Florida, sniffing out Gassapress?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy how that works. Anywho, Elijah's not here, and I said, you know what? I was either going to have his girlfriend on the stream for the podcast, and or my lovely girlfriend, my lovely partner, Kylie will be joining us today. Today we're talking about D&D, TTRPGs, anything of that sort of nature, our journeys of how we started playing, the campaigns that we have been in together, the campaigns that we are currently playing together, and other fun things along the way that Kylie has no idea about. But before we get to that, that's some housekeeping. Number one, thank you so much for listening to the Preston vs. Elijah podcast. This is episode 3, so you walk into a tavern. But before that, if you're listening on podcast services right now, give us 5 stars right now. I dare you. You won't do it, you coward. Do it. Do it right now. Give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts. Do it. It helps us get discovered by other people, and it lets us spread the love of our show. Once again, this is the Preston vs. Elijah podcast, where we talk about whatever the hell we want. Not only that, but if you were watching the stream starting soon screen, you might have noticed that we have merch for sale. This merch, if you type in ! merch in chat, or you find the link in the description of the podcast, you'll see a link to our merch store. But, Kylie, guess what?
What?
What is next month?
May.
You know what that means?
Tell me.
It's Froggy May. We got a limited time merch drop, frog-themed merch for Froggy May, based off of the joke Froggy Day that we have in our stream that we have not explained to anybody, only our IRL friends know about. And in the month of May, we are finally sitting down for a podcast episode, first week of May, and Elijah and myself are going to tell the people the story of that, along with just catching up and just chatting about random nonsense. So, Froggy May is coming out. It's going to be frog-themed things. There's a frog based off of me. There's a frog based off of Elijah. And there's a frog based off of Kai, plus stickers and other things. So check that out. Go to the merch store. Buy our merch.
Froggy Day, brother.
Froggy Day, brother. But not only that, another announcement is some of you might have just come into the stream from a little podcast known as Two Dads, One Tub, a night shift podcast. But if you're listening to this podcast on podcast services, you might be like, what is that? That is the show I help direct on Twitch. It's a podcast for the Night Shift community. The Night Shift is a fun, amazing Discord community where streamers support each other in the best way possible. Please go search them up on your favorite podcast networks. If you are listening to this right now, their first episode is live on podcast service networks. If you're watching the live stream, you just missed it, but it's okay. You can find out more about them on Friday. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and let's get into it. Hey, come here often.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
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 And I said, hey. Anywho, Kylie,
Yes.
I'm just going to be fully transparent with the chatters. You and I are recording this podcast both so tired.
Correct. I worked all day today and then came here and was sitting in the background of Preston doing the podcast that he just talked about earlier. What was it? Two dads, one tub?
Yep.
So while they were all doing that, I was just like sitting in the background, and not even gonna lie to you guys, I almost fell asleep. And I just chugged a Red Bull. So we're making it happen. We're doing what we gotta do.
But, I mean, elephant in the room, I've already mentioned this. You're my girlfriend.
Correct.
And we
Last time I checked.
Do we need to talk?
No.
Are we good?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
I was
Cool.
kidding.
Okay, great. One of the things that immediately, if you look at the topic of this episode, it's immediately red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experienced this going wrong in a D&D campaign before.
Mm-hmm.
We are dating,
Correct.
and I am your DM.
Correct.
I am your only DM.
Correct.
How am I doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've had one other DM before, but I barely count that because I was only a part of 2 sessions. That's how I got into playing D&D. It was only for 2 sessions, and they were both really short, and it was so long ago I barely remember the campaign that we were trying to do. But yeah, I like it. It's going good. I feel like we're both really good at separating the game from our relationship, I feel like. So you don't pull punches with me and my characters. If a bad guy is attacking my character and it rolled a lot of damage, you're not gonna slyly
I'm not going to
change it or whatever.
I'm not going to fudge the dice.
Yeah, no. You're not pulling punches for me. You treat me the same as every other player, which is really nice. And then I, on the other end of it, I feel like I'm good at not taking things personal because it's not you doing it, it's the dice doing it, or it's DM Preston doing it, not my lovely person, Preston. I feel like we're both very good at separating it from our relationship, which goes really nice.
So, I've been dating you for almost 3 years, and I don't think I've actually asked you this question, and when I realized that, I'm like, this is a podcast episode. Because I know that you played D&D a little bit before we ever did our first one-shot, even when we were just friends, right? Even before we started dating, right? And I know that even when we first met each other, you were into Critical Role. If you don't know, for people listening to this podcast, because I know there's a lot of people who aren't in the TTRPG space, Critical Role is the big TTRPG D&D show. It's run by Matt Mercer and a bunch of his voice actor friends, and it's imagine the best voice actors from all of the games you love doing a fantasy campaign in full voice acting character.
It's so cool.
So good. And I've been following it because I've been playing well over 15 years now. Holy crap. Since middle school. I've been following them since I graduated high school. Right as they were starting one of their most famous story arcs, right? And I know that one of our first points of connection just as friends was you watch Critical Role. You want to talk about so and so and this thing and that thing and this story event happening. Growing up, what was your relationship to TTRPGs and D&D? How did you get into it? Was there a barrier of entry for yourself to get into there? Because I feel like you and I have a very similar barrier of entry that we can relate with each other.
Most likely. Yeah, so growing up, I was very much a board games and card games kid. Video games wasn't really a thing that we had growing up. I mean, we had a Nintendo Wii, but really all we had was Mario Kart, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Or I think we had like Just Dance or something. Like, not like, when I think of video games, I don't immediately think of like Just Dance and Mario Kart. That might just be me. But we weren't like video game people. We didn't have like computer games that we played all that much, except for like a couple. We were mainly a board game and card game family. Like, even still to this day, when we get together, we usually end up playing cards at some point in time. And so I always really loved like board games and stuff. But we never had anything role playing wise. It was mainly just like trivia games or like do these actions, whatever. It was never a like what was it, TTRPG?
Tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG.
Yes, I couldn't remember the acronym. It's been a long day. But anyways, so there was never any like role-playing type of games that we had. It was just like the basic board games. So I didn't get introduced to any of this sort of thing until I want to say freshman year of high school. And I found out about it through my best friend at the time. And part of our like relationship dynamic, even still to this day, is we will just talk about whatever it is that we're watching at the time, reading at the time, listening to at the time. Like, if one of us has read a book, the other one knows every single detail of it because we spoil it for them. Like, that's just how we work. And so she was watching Critical Role at the time. I believe this was when they were in campaign 2, like the middle of it or something. But who knows? Because their campaigns are so long; they last several years. So I don't know where in the storyline this was, but it was a couple years ago in campaign 2. And so when it was like her turn to talk about whatever she was wanting to talk about for the day or whatever, she would always talk about Critical Role and explain all the character arcs and the character dynamics, and this funny moment happened, and she would show me little clips here and there. And so I started watching. I remember so specifically, I remember the first time I watched it was in art class, because art class was like super laid back and we could be on our phones and we could watch something or listen to music with headphones, like whatever. As long as we were doing art in some capacity, our teacher didn't care if you were like watching a show at the same time. It was so nice. So I remember so specifically, I was watching Critical Role for the first time ever while I was trying to draw a potato.
What?
It was the whole thing of like, try and copy this picture. But we didn't have, like, she forgot her fruit or something. Like, something happened. It was like we were supposed to like copy this live thing in front of you, and it's like the stereotypical like copy this thing of fruit, right? But for some reason she didn't have fruit and she had a potato. And so the whole class was just staring at this potato, trying to draw it. What? I don't know, but it's so specific. So I was trying to draw a freaking potato while watching Critical Role for the first time. I don't even remember, like, what of it I was watching. I don't remember if I was watching Campaign 2 at the time or what, but I didn't actually start watching it, like, consistently until probably sophomore year. So I would watch it, like, every now and then, but not very often. And then probably the start, or maybe the summer in between freshman and sophomore, or something like that. I, like, actually started watching Campaign 2, but I started from the beginning. So I, like, fully restarted, so I was completely so far behind, like, years behind of what was actually happening in real time. But I restarted Campaign 2 and just watched it. Like, I binged it. I did not stop watching for so long. It wasn't live, so I could just go from one episode to the next, to the next, to the next. So that's when I started, like, actually watching it. And then right around the springtime of sophomore year, Elijah, actually, the other namesake of this channel, so Elijah's sister, who is usually in chat. Her name is Lexi or Alexis. She's in chat sometimes. So her, at the time, boyfriend, but now husband. Upgrades, people, upgrades. So at the time, boyfriend, now husband, was wanting to start a D&D campaign, like start a party. And so a bunch of us friends got together and started doing it. It was level 1 characters from the ground up. And it was all like pre-made characters almost. Like we would pick from character sheets that were already fully like fleshed out and had suggested backstories. And so I don't remember what class I was, but I know I was a human. And I named her Talia. I don't remember her last name, but I kind of tweaked the suggested backstory a little bit, but she came from a noble background. And the backstory that I gave her was she came from a very rich family, but I don't remember why, but for some reason she like lost access to the funds or the fortune, or the fortune's gone or something. Like she's not rich anymore, but she grew up very rich. Mm-hmm. And so she's trying to like act rich and like not let anyone know that she's broke essentially. I don't know why that was what I went with, but it was. So her name was Talia. I don't remember what her class was. I wonder if I could find anything about it later, now that I'm thinking about it. But so yeah, we did 2 sessions of that. And it was really, really fun. I liked it a lot. But the kind of the thing that stopped me from keep playing was my family did not like D&D. That's the nicest way to put it.
I think you and I can address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We both grew up in houses that were very much satanic panic houses.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So I knew that it just wasn't going to be something that was going to fly. So I would tell my parents, oh, we're having a game night. It's just a game night. Because that is so like commonplace, especially with the group of friends that we were playing with. It was not uncommon for us all to get together and just play board games for hours on end. And so it was a great cover. I was just, oh yeah, we're having another game night. And at one point, I think it was after the second session, where my mom, we were driving to school one day, and she was like, what game did you play last night? Like, you were there for a long time. And I was panicking. I was trying to find something else to say, but I didn't want to lie to her. And also, I'm half asleep going to school at 7 a.m. in the morning. I don't have the brain power for this. So I told her that it was D&D. And the silence that followed. Oh my goodness. And so she basically told me that I was not allowed to play anymore. And even though I tried to explain that what she thinks it is isn't what it is, and that's not how that works, and I promise you it's not that, and blah, 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 it was not to be changed, and so I couldn't play anymore, and the rest of the party went on to keep playing, and the DM just played Talia instead of me playing her, which was fine. It sucked that I couldn't keep playing, because that was my first intro to D&D, and it got cut so short. But, like, I don't blame my mom at all. Like, I get it. That's where she was coming from. That's all she knew at the time. I get it. We've moved on from there. We're good now. So that's kind of what it was. And then I was just watching Critical Role on YouTube forever. And then after I graduated, I started working at the camp, which is where I met Preston. And like Preston said, that was like our first like major friendship moment. Was I was walking to, I think I was doing laundry, and I was walking to the laundry room, and Preston was at the like table in the common room, and I think you were working on something for D&D or something like that, but you had your dice out, like your dice bag. And I saw the dice, and I said, ooh, dice! And then I just started, without asking, I just started looking at your dice and rummaging through them and being like, oh, this one's cool. Oh, this one looks interesting. And then that sparked us talking about D&D and like how we got, not even how we got into it. We literally only talked about like different stories of what you've done in the past, or I think I talked about Talia for a little bit, but I didn't have much to contribute. So it was mainly just me listening and be like, oh yeah, yeah, just so enraptured because I loved D&D, but I had so limited access to it. And so that was kind of our first like major friendship moment, was just bonding over D&D. And then we started we did a one shot together. And then we did a small, no, it wasn't a one shot. It was a couple.
We did a 3-session adventure.
Yeah, 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that. That was really fun. And then, yeah, we've just been doing stories and campaigns ever since. And then I DM'd a one shot recently, which was kind of fun. And now we're here.
So I have like 5 questions for you. This conversation, and feel free to ask me. If I ask you a question, you can reverse it to me afterwards too.
I probably will.
But I know the people who listen to this podcast.
Yes.
I know that right now Panic has this podcast either tabbed or he is currently listening to it in between various drives to various different shops. By the way, thank you for listening to podcasts right now. We have people who are aware of D&D but don't know, might not necessarily have a full experience with D&D. In your own words, what's the vibe of D&D? What do you do? Yes.
Okay. This is my favorite way to explain it. And this is such a watered down explanation. But this is the explanation that has worked on my family. Because like I mentioned, they were like, not even just my mom and dad, like all of my sisters, very much ingrained in like, it has to do with the devil and you're casting spells and blah, blah, blah. And like very much satanic panic coded, right? And so over the years, I've very slowly introduced the fact that I'm playing D&D regularly. And I'm playing D&D with people that I work with. And, like, I work at a Christian camp. And so, like, the fact that I could play D&D, which in their head was, like, the most evil thing possible, at a Christian camp, like, completely rewrote their brains. They could not fathom. And so I very slowly just, like, peppered in little facts here and there. And I kind of boiled it down to these like couple sentences. And then if they ask further questions, I then provide more. So this is very watered down, just a preface. But this is how I explain it. I explain that D&D can be almost anything you want it to be. Think of a improv show. But if before they did any action or like any movement or anything like that, they had to roll a dice to see how well they do and then act out the result of that dice roll. That is very watered down, but that's the best way I can explain it like succinctly. In more detail, there is like base rules and like a structure for how it all works. But as far as the actual gameplay, it could be whatever you want it to be in a way. It could be super silly and funny and like just jokes the whole time and you're just like a group of adventurers going on a little journey and it's all fun and games. It could be the most like intense thing possible. It could be life or death stakes. It could be like the most dramatic acting scenes that make you cry. It could be a mix of the two. It could be like super, super, super critical of the rules and like super by the book, very rigid in following the rules. Or it could be, the rules are a suggestion. I like this better. Rule of cool wins type thing. Or it could be a mix of both. Like, it is so like adaptable to not only the people playing, the person running the game, which is called a DM or Dungeon Master, but also to the story that they're trying to tell and the characters they're using to tell that story. So yes, there's rules that go along with it and like a certain structure that you give. But even those rules and structure, to an extent, can be a little bit of suggestions. It's so adaptable to who's playing, like what you're playing, what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, all of those things. And the reason I say that it's like improv is because, at least in my experience, I guess you don't have to play it this way, but in my experience, based on what I've watched online and done personally, you're playing a character. Like when I sit down on a Tuesday night to play D&D, Kylie isn't saying these words. Kylie isn't punching this dragon in the face or whatever. It's my character. My character is doing those things. My character is saying those things. And so you're basically acting to whatever extent you can. And even then, like going back to the whole, like it could be intense or it could be silly goofy. Like it doesn't have to be like you're the best actor in the history of ever. You're winning all the awards. It could just be like you to an extent, just like with a different filter on almost. I've heard it said that every character that you play has some semblance of you in it. And so far with all the characters I've played, I do think that's true. Like every character that you play or every like person you make in this game, a little bit of you is in that character somewhere, just as like a basis for you to draw on when you're doing those improv scenes, or acting scenes, whatever. But yeah, there's so much that goes into it, but it's also so adaptable to whatever you want it to be or like who's playing and stuff.
Yeah. I think your philosophy, I think not just because you're my girlfriend, but like, I admired this for you as a player because we started playing together before we ever were romantically ever into each other.
Yeah, no, we were so far in the friend zone.
Yeah. Before that ever happened. I think one of my favorite things about you is that I feel like one of my favorite things you do about your characters, and specifically your character work for roleplay, is you always look for the nugget of genuine honesty in any roleplay moment. Like you look for a moment for you to be like, this is true to my character without it being an asshole move.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'll give it a moment from last night. So we're in the middle of this campaign. It's a conspiracy campaign. I'll have Kai try to explain it in her own words later.
There's so much going on.
I have been DMing. I've been playing tabletop RPGs because D&D is a different story. I've been playing tabletop RPGs. That is a different story. My first tabletop RPG was actually not D&D. But we'll get to that if you want to ask me that stuff later. It's like a big conspiracy. Like they are constantly like having to talk to each other and like put clues together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our players' characters was having a moment of doubt last night about his identity and who he is. And Kylie's playing a character who has a prosthetic, like magical arm. And one of the moments...
Well, it's not magical yet.
It's magical in the sense that, like, the way it moves and operates is powered by magic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, like, you have, like, fully, like appended, like, phalanges.
Yeah, I have full dexterity.
Yeah, full dexterity, yeah. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, like, multiple people died in front of this other character recently in the campaign, and he's blaming himself. And you walk up and you sit down next to him and you say, well, that's bullshit, because if you think you're the reason why these characters are dead, then do I blame myself for me losing my arm in front of my parents, or by my dad. You said a line.
It was
You said a line.
Yeah, so basically, so he was saying, like, it's my fault. I caused these people to die, even though he didn't, but in his panic, that's what his brain was saying to him. Like, I caused these people to die, it's my fault. And so, my character was trying to point out the facts that, no, you just happened to be there. Like, things happened to you, you didn't cause the things to happen, type of a thing. And so, but he was, like, fighting back really hard. And so I said, okay, so is it my fault that I lost my arm then? And he just, like, stopped and he said, what? And I said, well, my parents died and then I lost my arm, so is that my fault? Because it happened. It happened right in front of me. I was there. Like, is that my fault then? And he was like, no, of course not. And I said, then why is it your fault? And he just stopped for a second.
And I eat that crap up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I use D&D, especially DMing, as like a way to do storytelling and interactive storytelling with my friends, right? Like, I have a background in improv, obviously, and both Elijah and I do. You were an ancillary theater kid. You knew a lot of theater kids, but you never were a theater kid.
I was for 1 year. Well, 1 semester, actually, in 7th grade. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, tree number 2. My apologies.
Excuse me. I was a young child wearing a tutu. Thank you very much.
Oh, my apologies.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've done. Technically, everything else is just because all of my friends were theater kids.
Yeah. But like I love these moments where, like, obviously we've had our silly campaigns.
Yeah, 100%.
I have the dumbest NPCs. One in which you could probably shout out later, right?
Probably. If it's the one I'm thinking of, probably.
It is absolutely the one you're thinking of
100%.
right now.
Yeah.
And even technically, he's not even mine.
Yeah, no.
I've just co-opted him.
Yeah. You kidnapped him.
I kidnapped him, and I don't even think that person plays D&D anymore, so I think he's...
Well, there you go.
I'm claiming ownership. But, like, and you could even ask Josh, who is one of our mods for the Discord, or not Discord, for the Twitch, and in the Discord, too. And he's been, I think, out of everyone, it's Kakoa and Josh are the two who have been playing with me the longest.
Yeah.
Right? I am a sucker for emotional moments and emotional melodrama.
So am I.
I am a sucker for those things in my campaign, and I will set up, if you give me a backstory, I like, it's known in my campaigns now, where it's like, if you write something in your backstory, I will always weaponize it against you.
100%, yep.
If you leave it broad and say, fill it out however you want, I am filling it up with something for me to draw out some amazing roleplay moments. Because I think in my brain, I crave for that interaction, for that storytelling, and using D&D as a medium to tell those stories. I'm too ADHD to sit down and actually write a novel.
That's fair.
This is the closest I can get to that type of storytelling with my friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you remember what our first one-shot was and who you played?
Oof. Yes, vaguely. So, yeah, okay. So this was during that first summer when we were still friends. And, it was gonna be, like, I think it was 4. Yeah. It was 4 sessions, but I was only there for 3 of them.
Yep.
Because I wasn't there for the first one. I don't remember why. But I wasn't there for the first one, and I came in on the second one. And I was playing... I think she might be my favorite character that I've played. I don't know if it's just nostalgia because she was my first, like, actual character that I played, or if I just genuinely love playing her. I don't know which one, and I don't care to find out which one. But she is one of my, like, favorite characters that I've played. Her name was Rue.
Short for?
Hang on. let me build it up.
Okay, my apologies.
I was gonna do a reveal, but now it's spoiled because they know to expect something.
My bad.
Anyways, her name was Rue, and she was a Warforged, which in this context is essentially a robot. And her name was Rue, short for Roomba, which, if you say it fast enough, sounds like Roomba, the little, like, vacuum thing. And I think, to this day, I still think that's hilarious. Her name was Roomba, also known as Rue. She was a Warforged robot. She kind of looked like Wall-E. If you know what Wall-E is, you're a real one. And if you don't know what Wall-E is...
Fake.
Get a life, I guess. Anyways. Anyways, so she kind of looked like Wall-E with, like, the triangle wheels and treads and all of that. And she was so straightforward and stoic and pure logic, no emotion. She had no emotions because she was a robot. But over time, throughout the 3 sessions that I was a part of, she suddenly got emotions because there was like this gem that was embedded in her chest, and it was a whole mystery about like, where did it come from? Why is this happening? What is it? Is it bad? Spoiler alert, it was bad. So through that like magical gem that got embedded into her like chest cavity, she ended up like getting emotions. So the way that I decided to play it was, okay, when a like human person in real life gets emotions, they're typically like a baby or a toddler. And when they're learning to regulate those emotions, they're probably like 2, 3, 4, all the way up till whenever they master that, which for a lot of people is never. They're constantly trying to work on that. But especially in those first few years of life, your emotional regulation is crap because everything you're experiencing for the first time. And so that's how I played it, was I played this robot who suddenly has emotions now, and she's a toddler. She will go from like the closest a robot can get to crying to like the happiest person ever to, why did you say that to me? I'm gonna kill you now. Like such extreme switches in emotion because I played it like a toddler, and she was stubborn like a toddler too. So yeah, that was my first like actual character. Technically, Talia from the 2 sessions was my first character. I don't really count that. I count Rue as my first character. That's pretty much all I remember of that. I remember that we played with Quentin and Colton.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember their characters.
Quentin's character you still know to this day, because you remember what we did after those adventures?
Yes, we spun it off. So me and Quentin continued our same characters into a different campaign that we still play on and off now.
I've canceled that campaign.
Yeah, it kind of faded out just because people got busy. So me and Quentin went on to continue those same characters throughout that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Rue got to be her little toddler self. It was so great. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but in the one shot that I DM'd semi-recently, I brought Roomba back as like an NPC that I played. And watching the reactions of everyone when I said like, oh, my name's Rue. And they were like, wait, what's your full name? And I said, Roomba. It was so funny. That was my favorite. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. D&D's so fun.
I love it so much.
D&D is so incredibly fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you want to ask me anything, we can, I mean, feel like we have a natural moving on point. You this last winter, did the thing that you said you would never do.
I did.
And you DM'd your first one-shot.
I co-DM'd. So me and Preston both DM'd. So I worked with Preston to make this story. And Preston had the main plot points kind of mapped out, and then I gave my input and changed a few things, whatever, brainstormed. And then I handled all of the scene transitions, because another thing about D&D is and it doesn't have to be this way, but I definitely prefer it, is setting the scene in between scene changes. So describing what the room is, describing the feel of the place, describing if there's music playing in the background, all of those things, kind of setting the scene, just like how in a TV show or a movie, it always has it starts wide and shows you where you are and then goes to the actual scene, even if it's just a split-second thing. So that was something that I took charge of, was writing the scripts to describe those scenes. And then I also mapped out the NPC that I was going to play. And throughout all of it, she wasn't directly interacting with the player characters, but they were trying to save her, essentially. And so I scripted all of that out, and what she would say, the vibe of what she is, what she looks like, how to describe her, all of that stuff. And then Preston handled any sort of combat that happened, and a few other things, because it was taking place in a museum, and there was 4 different exhibits, one of which was the whole plot. And so I handled that exhibit room, but the other 3 rooms Preston handled, because I was already doing a lot.
I think you're selling yourself short, because you also had the idea of this was a one-shot to take a break from another campaign we had just took a break from.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, these people don't really get to play these characters anymore, but they want to play new characters. So you had the idea of bringing back their old characters as high school students. Mm-hmm. For this whole thing, and having them be the NPCs, whether you played them or I played them, was a different issue. And I had the basic idea, but what was... I know we're kind of dancing around it. What was the idea of the one-shot? Mm-hmm. And what's the backstory about why we ran this one-shot during the season that it was?
Yes, okay. So... the kind of broad strokes of it was night at the museum meets what was it? The Nutcracker. But a twisted version of the Nutcracker, essentially. So it was these high school characters, and they're going on a field trip, and they got put together in a group, and they have to go around to the different exhibits. And the main one that was plot was a wasn't it literally a Nutcracker display or something?
Yeah, it was but what's the name of the holiday?
Oh, that's okay. I was trying to figure out what you were trying to lead me to. Yes, okay. I understand the assignment now. Okay, so backing up. Last year, so not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before that, we were doing a one shot to take a break from the thing we were playing at the time, the campaign we were playing at the time, and we were doing a Christmas one shot. However, in the canon of the universe and just making light of it, I guess, Preston didn't want to call it Christmas, so we called it Pishmish. It's just Pishmish.
I'm gonna correct you right there. I didn't come up with the Pishmish.
Oh, who did?
That was actually so that campaign was the Teen Prodigies campaign.
Yeah.
in the middle of it, our friend Kira was role playing, and she goes, "Yeah, and, you know, being the oldest of like 11 siblings, and then trying to get Pishmith all set up every single year during the winter time," and I lost it. I thought that was the funniest thing ever.
That's
because
right.
at that point in world building, I had no idea what the holidays were. Like, I was just building it up. I was like, what if I did a world that I built it as I went, right? I focus on like one city at a time and go from there, right? And it's all a bunch of city states that are like kind of next to each other. I'm like, I don't have holidays. Like, I said the Harvest Festival for the fall because I had no idea what the name of the holiday was, right? And then she just gives me this nugget. Kira always does this with her characters.
Yeah.
She just gives me a little nugget of like, I'm gonna give this to you as a gift. Do it with whatever you want with it. And she said, running it like Pishmis and being the oldest of like 11 and having to like get Pishmis gifts. And I derailed that section for like a solid 10 minutes just laughing at Pishmish. What? And Pishmish, and everyone just kind of started throwing out their own ideas of like Pishmish traditions. I'm like, this is a one shot. This is a one shot.
Yeah, so Pishmish was born, and the whole like basis, the whole concept of Pishmish is that everyone's Pishmish traditions are so vastly different. Like, anything goes, essentially. Like, you could have one group who Pishmish is like super ritualistic. It's like Halloween, but on steroids. Another group is what we consider Christmas, and it's very wholesome and snowy, and you give gifts to each other, and it's all about like whatever. Or it could be just a like generic winter holiday, or it could be like literally whatever you want. And so the whole concept of any Pishmis one shot we do, every character, you make your own traditions of what Pishmis means to you. So there's no rules. It can be literally anything, and it's so much fun.
I think my favorite Pishmish tradition is what Elijah came up with, which is reverse Santa Claus. You jump into the chimney and try and steal everyone's stuff.
Yeah, it's basically the Grinch, but like citywide or whatever.
Speaking of the Grinch, don't forget our favorite player / NPC, the Grunch.
Yep. So instead of the Grinch, it was the Grunch. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So that's the context of Pishmish. Pishmish. Oh my gosh. I'm saying it too much. I'm forgetting how to say it. Exactly. So that's the concept of the holiday. And so the main exhibit that was for storyline, was it like the history of Pishmish or something like that?
Uncovered Pishmish traditions.
Yeah, that's what it was. And it was all about the Nutcracker. And so there was like ginormous, like 9 feet tall Nutcrackers everywhere. They were all like decked out really fancy. There was like display things about them, whatever. But in a like separate room of that display was this what looked to be a doll behind a glass case, and it's a ballerina. And throughout the context of whatever, as the characters looked at the doll, they would get sucked in to like a different dimension, and in that dimension, they realized that the doll that they were seeing wasn't a doll. It was a human girl, or a girl. I don't remember if she was human, but
it was a porcelain doll.
It was a doll. Okay, it was a porcelain doll.
It was a porcelain doll.
But they kept hearing this voice, like, "Hello, is anyone there? Like, please help me. Where are you?" So they kept hearing this voice, and they find the doll laying on this bed. And they realize that they have to wake up this doll because there's someone, like, inside this doll, or this doll is alive somehow, but she's trapped. We have to, like, wake her up to get her, like, woken up in the real world, all this stuff. So they go through all that, end up waking her up. But while all of that was happening, there were some characters who... Well, was this happening simultaneously, or did they all go into the dimension with the doll and come back, and that's where the next part happened?
Some of them started looking at it, and then the teacher was like, "If you do not stay with your group, you are going to get detention for the rest of the year. And like, crap, we got to find our group. And they all walked back just to see two of the NPCs staring at the doll in a trance.
That's right. Okay, so the party was split. So some of them were like in this trance other dimension thing trying to wake up this girl, and the other half was still in the real world trying to figure out why their friends were staring at a doll unresponsive. But while all of that was happening, the Nutcrackers came alive, and there were mice, I think?
Rats.
Right, rats.
Because it was reverse Nutcrackers, so the Nutcrackers were the villains, the rats were actually trying to help free the girl.
Yeah, so there are these rats that were running all over the place, and if the characters rolled high enough, they would figure out that the rats are helping them. And, like, the rats are on their side, the rats are good, the Nutcrackers are bad. But if they didn't roll high enough, if they rolled really low, then they would think that the Nutcrackers are the good guys and the rats are the bad guys, and like be counterintuitive and not helping themselves. But luckily they all rolled high enough, and so that wasn't an issue. So they figured it out. So the rats were helping them defeat the Nutcrackers, and then this was one of my ideas.
I was hoping you were going to talk about this.
Of course I'm going to talk about it. So this was one of my ideas, because we were trying to figure out, okay, it has to be, like, somewhat realistic. There has to be other, like, exhibits, whatever. And so one of them was about, like, prehistoric animals or something like that. And I had this idea. Okay, so you guys know how, like, chickens are, like, genetically related to dinosaurs, right? Like, chickens are technically dinosaurs, on a very, like, base technological whatever, right? They're descendants of dinosaurs. And so I wanted it to be, like, a prehistoric fossilized chicken that ends up coming alive and attacking them, but it's like a dinosaur. And I was like, how do we do this? How do we make this work? And so we switched it to a squirrel. And so it was a giant squirrel. And in D&D, you have different like stat blocks. So it'll tell you like how many HP you have, what your armor class is, like your strength, your like whatever, all these different things. And so your stat block determines a bunch of things about your character. And different creatures have different stat blocks. And so in D&D, there is a stat block for a T-Rex, a full T-Rex dinosaur. And so it was a giant squirrel with the like stat block of a T-Rex because it was a prehistoric squirrel. And it was my favorite thing. I was so happy about that idea and so happy that it worked. So yeah, that was another thing that they had to fight, was a prehistoric squirrel with the stat block of a T-Rex. Yeah, and then they ended up freeing the girl, defeating the Nutcrackers, all the things, and come to find out that this girl is from a different like timeline or different universe, something like that. And she was with her family, and all of a sudden she was trapped. I don't know where my family is. Like, I need to find them. And they were like, oh, what's your name? And I was like, oh, no. Okay, so she kept talking about finding her brother. So they asked...
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I forgot about this.
So, yeah. So this is how I led them into the reveal of it's actually different universe Roomba. So she kept mentioning, like, I was with my brother, and I have to find my brother. I don't know where my brother is. I'm super worried about my brother, blah, blah, blah. And so they were like, oh, like, what's your brother's name? And she said, Deisen. Deisen. And I think Elijah clocked it.
Elijah clocked it.
I don't think anyone else did at this point.
Elijah does that thing where he, like, his head cranes his eyes go a little like glazed over, like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's a head tilt for sure. So Elijah clocked it immediately. No one else did yet. And they were like, oh, like, okay, well, what's your name? And I said, my name is Rue. And then at this point, at this point, there was 4 people playing, 3 of which played with Rue. Like, robot Rue.
Original Rue.
Original Rue. OG Rue. 3 of the 4 played with OG Rue. One of them has heard about her, but never played with her. And so at this point, all 3 people who know about Rue are so in on it and like fully reacting, but not fully because the other person hasn't caught on to it yet. And so they're like trying to be chill with it. So I say, my name's Rue. They all clock it. And I say, short for Roomba. Nice to meet you. And everyone lost it because at this point, the 4th person realized what was happening. Everyone lost it, and it's so funny. So it was a different, like, universe, like, multiverse type.
Marvel variant.
Yeah, Marvel variant version of Roomba, where now she's in a porcelain doll instead of a robot.
So, I think that's one of my favorite one-shots I've ever been a part of. I kind of let you do all the social stuff, and then you're like, I don't know the rules as well, and I kind of did the heavy lifting on, like, combat encounters.
Yeah, I very much handled the, like, character interaction, social dynamics, and you definitely handled the combat, and, like, can we do this? Or, like, how does this work? What's the rules on this? Because I just don't know nearly much.
I was just the walking, talking D&D rule books.
Basically, yeah. And you were running combat because that's a lot.
Well, the turnaround for us actually writing the campaign. Okay, our friends are going to listen to this and are going to be so mad. We had told them for weeks to make characters. We didn't write the adventure until 3 days before.
Yeah, that's correct.
We procrastinated the shit out of this one.
Yeah, it was bad.
And then, like, at the end of the session, like, you must have put in so much time into this. And we were like, yeah! For sure! We didn't just finish the notes hours before playing.
No, not at all. We didn't start it 3 days ago. What do you mean?
And by starting it, I mean the rough story structure, no stat blocks, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Like, literally bare bones started it 3 days ago. And then finished it not even, like, 3 hours before we started playing.
That was so... Kylie... Also, they didn't know Kylie was DMing.
Yeah, they thought I was playing with them. And so, I said that I was playing, I was, like, kind of purposely vague. I kept saying that, just like you guys, I'm playing a character I've already played before. Or I'm just reusing one of my old characters. That's true. I did. I was Roomba, but not in the context they were all thinking. And so, we were all sitting around the table, and typically when you play D&D, a DM has, like, some sort of screen or, like, protective barrier so that the players can't see what they're doing, because they could have notes, they could have whatever. So it's like element of surprise. You can't see behind the DM screen, or protective barrier or whatever. And so I was sitting where I would normally sit if I was playing, and Preston was behind the DM screen, and I pulled up a character sheet, but I think it was just a random character sheet. It wasn't like...
No, I remember what it was. I made in D&D Beyond one that said not real, but I spelled it like it was an Elvish.
Yep, that's what it was. So it was a fake character sheet that I had pulled up on my laptop, and I was, like, so ready. I had, like, a blank Word document to quote unquote take notes, and, like, I was ready. I was acting. I had my dice ready, like, literally everything the same I normally do. And Preston says, okay, are we ready? And we all go, like, yeah, we're ready, whatever. And what did you say?
I didn't say anything. I said,
That's right, we did it in silence.
I said, let's begin. I stood up, scooted my chair to the side, and you moved your chair over. You hit play for the music, and then you started narrating.
That's right. I forgot that we did it in silence. Yes, everyone was so confused because you said, let's begin, and then stood up, and everyone was like, wait, where are you going? What's happening? And watching the slow realization of watching them watch me move behind the DM screen and like readjust things to the way I wanted them and not saying anything. They were asking me like, what are you doing? Like, are you DMing? What's happening? I was silent. I did not say a word. I pressed play and then I started narrating the scene and they lost it. I had to restart the narration because they lost it.
What do you mean you've been playing this the entire time? What do you mean?
And then they were like, I thought you were playing your old character. And I said, I never said they weren't an NPC. And they lost it again. It was so funny. It was so good.
So you DM'd once.
Yes, half DM, but yes.
And I know that amount was stressful.
Mm-hmm, it was.
And like you finally understand where I come from after doing the bullcrap.
Yes.
I decided to run the way I decide I run campaigns, which is complicated.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Would you do it again?
I think I would want to do a co-DM again. I don't think I'm ready to do one on my own. Because, like you said, like even just doing half of the work, I was still stressed out of my mind leading up to it. And even while everyone was playing, I was stressed the entire time. I think I hit it well, but I was stressed the entire time. And so I think I would want to do like another co-DM moment, and then take it from there.
What if it was a less combat heavy system?
Maybe, I don't know.
like a Powered by the Apocalypse, where it's not, there's no initiative order, and it's tell me the cool thing you want to do, set the scene, and then I'll tell you one roll to see if you do it.
Maybe I would have to learn more about it. But
right. Yeah. Okay. Is there any questions you want to ask me right now?
I think my question to you is, we kind of touched on this a little earlier, but what is your favorite part about DMing specifically? And then, if it is different, what's your favorite part about D&D as a whole? If it's the same answer, cool. If they're different answers, cool.
My problem is that I don't like surprises. So I actually don't like being a player as much as being a DM. As much as I joke about complaining that I'm the forever DM, I don't like playing as much because I don't like surprises too. I know that eventually every single person I DM for might want to become a DM and have me as their player, and then I have a feeling they're gonna have a vendetta against me because the bullcrap I pull with their backstories, they're going to make too. You've read one of my player backstories before. Like I'm like, okay, I know this is coming. I'm going to write a backstory that allows them to tragically affect me in the same way that I have tragically affected some of these other people.
100%. It's only fair.
But in every instance where that has happened, it has happened exactly like that. You can ask Kakoa. Kakoa was ready. There's a character backstory that I have written that we have not played. That's like backstory is like 8 pages long.
Damn.
And I posted it when we were doing the campaign with a lot of new people. Like 2 years ago, the Katha one.
Oh, I remember that. I don't think I read the whole thing. I think I read like the first 2 pages or something.
Right? And like some of it has to be edited because the person who was going to play the other side of another character who's mentioned in the backstory was someone I was dating. We broke up. It's another issue. That person filed all those things.
Yeah.
All of of those things happen. But like I had written this backstory of like it's this prodigy young assassin, but it's not like an assassin for like a guild of assassins. It is literally the assassins that the king this was a queendom. It was a matriarchy.
Okay, queen.
It was a matriarchy that the matriarchy specifically had to go and kill its political rivals. And so it's essentially my character was level 5, so locally famous or famous locally in an area is usually what happens around level 5. And I had phrased up the ranks to not be the highest ranking member of this, but a prominent member of this guild who's now training younger people in the guild, right? I know one day Kakao is going to say we're going to do that campaign, modify your backstories a little bit, go, and Kakao is going to ruin my life.
Probably, yeah.
Kakao is going to ruin my life because
with a smile too.
Even with that person not playing the other character related to my backstory, that backstory could be an NPC. We can totally just cut that part out of it. I think I would like that person to be an NPC, because I think that's a really key part of that character's backstory.
Yeah.
I would describe what the full backstory is, but I don't have 20 hours. I love that part of DMing. I like DMing because I don't like surprises, but I genuinely like the look on my players' faces when they are lost in a story and they're lost in a moment. And the facade or masks of Kylie, the facade or mask of you're not saying you're fake or anything, but like the mask gets put on and Kylie disappears and Windy the monk comes up, or Adon the Asimar, right? Yeah. Jevin, the now discovered Simic hybrid, right? Yeah. Hiding his identity, right? Those moments when you yourself disappear and the character comes forward, and the genuine revelation of a story moment that shocks you all and gets you all excited. We're going to talk a little bit about the current campaign that we're currently both involved in. Yeah. But there was a one shot we did before that was testing out the current campaign setting. The campaign setting that I'm doing, I love Aetherpunk. I think it's my favorite setting to do in D&D. If you're familiar with D&D, Aetherpunk is like Eberron. If you're not familiar with D&D, think Arcane. It's like that magic is technology powered by like crystals and other forces. I love that. A lot of Aetherpunk, the themes of Aetherpunk are technology going too far, magic going too far, and using that technology and magic to defy the gods, which we're like, how did this campaign match into those things? And then in the last 2 sessions became very apparent how this matches in theme with Kakoa's character and Josh's character. Yep. And the two sides of the coins of the people involved with that conflict and then the people trying to just live their life.
Exactly.
Then being affected by other people's choices of trying to play God. And I think Elijah at first was like, well, my character's backstory feels so small in the comparison of everything.
Yeah, and I feel that too.
And I designed that on purpose in the campaign to allow Josh and Kakoa have these big backstories that have to do with that side of the theme, so that your guys' role play is, how did I get mixed up with this? You're messing up my life.
Yeah.
You're ruining everything.
Yeah. I feel like that, like, two sides of the coin dynamic within the party, I feel like that clicked for me last night. Because before then, like, I hadn't voiced it to you yet, but I was genuinely about to. I was like, can I change my backstory? Because compared to, like, stuff that Josh is doing, compared to what Kakoa is hinting at but hasn't revealed yet, I feel like my character is too small. I feel like she doesn't have enough to, like, be interesting, even though she does. But compared to them, like, I felt like she was too small. But then when I realized what all was happening, like, in actuality last night when all the reveals happened, I was like, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. This was on purpose. There's two groups. There's two groups within our parties. This is, okay, yeah, I see how this works now.
Yes. Yep. And that's all within like the Aetherpunk theming, right?
Yeah,
it
100%.
is that dichotomy and the compare and contrast of these people who are living these amazing lives, thinking like Arcane, it's like the Jaces, it's like the Victors, it's the Jinxes, right? Or not even, I think Jinx would go on the other side of the coin, someone who's just trying to live her life, right?
Yeah.
It's those people versus the Jinxes and the Vi's who have their lives totally upended because of the choices of people in power up on top.
Yeah.
Or people who have ambitions of power, right? Like if you look at Don's backstory, like the reason why he made the choices and where you guys are at was because he made a choice at the age of 16.
Which also I want to point out, which you can give me the debrief on this later. I don't know why Adon did that because my character wasn't there when the reveals.
He didn't fully reveal that either.
Oh, okay. So
the only thing was he promised me wealth and fame beyond my wildest imagination, and then that's it. He didn't go any deeper than that. He didn't give any other further motivations than that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I see why the other characters were pissed at him. Because without explanation, that sounds really shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. But when we were testing out the campaign setting that we're currently playing in, which we're now in our third adventure campaign in this campaign setting, when I was testing it, I was testing out the government or world conspiracy side of the world. For my friends listening, I haven't played a lot of Helldivers 2, but I'm a really big fan of Helldivers 1 because I'm one of 5 people who own a PlayStation Vita. And popularity increased when I started building this world of Helldivers coming out, and I was getting back into Halo. And I was like, what if I did my take on super soldiers? But what if I, instead of it being like Spartans, like the way Halo talks about it, which that's just the name of the super soldiers, what if it was literally Aetherpunk's version of Roman culture, where it's the Senate, it's these soldiers, people who become soldiers have a chance to become senators afterwards, are the ones who are mainly in power. People who are not in the military are a little less looked down on in society, and I feel like you guys are now finally feeling the pressure of that in the campaign right now.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden you have these soldiers walking around everywhere, being able to access whatever they want. Right? And so I wanted to do that, but I had it be a high-level campaign so that we can try out some of the more dangerous aspects of the world. But we did an adventure, a one-shot adventure test non-canon story the first time we did it. That was also a political military conspiracy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved about that, to actually come full circle around to your question, what do I love moments about DMing? It's those moments when the players think they have everything figured out, and then I reveal to them that you were so close, but not quite.
Oh.
But also, some of my favorite moments is like Josh absolutely clocking what I'm doing and going, God, crap, run.
Yep.
We should not do this. We should not be engaging with this. I love that. It's almost like cat and mouse-esque. There's a joke with a lot of tables where it's like, my relationship with my DM is so toxic. Why is he doing this to me? Why is she doing this to me, right? Why is my backstory so tragic? Why are all these things happening to me? Number one, if you're saying that, guess what? You're the problem. You wrote your backstory. Number two, that's the fun of the tension of collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
It's that idea of, okay, you're presented to me this toolbox and the sandbox of different things. How can I take the things that are in Kylie's toolbox? How can I take the things that are inside Koa's toolbox? These tools that are given me, and how can I take similar themes and ideas, or even opposing ideas, to tell a cohesive story? There are going to be some things in your guys' backstory that I won't touch.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think I'm ever going to... spoilers for you for your character. I don't think I'm ever going to explore why your parents in the game died.
That's fair.
And it's probably not going to be connected to anything. And if we play with Wendy again, that might be something we revisit further down the road.
Yeah.
But for the story I'm telling right now, it's a story of friendship, rekindling friendship, love, loyalty, and it's like finding those common things, and messing around with different people in different circumstances. 3 out of the 4 players in our party don't have good relationships with their parents. One does, but then what did I do? Started sowing a little bit of relationship turmoil with that person and their parents. But what's going on with Elijah's character in the relationship with his father is completely different than what's going on with Adon and his father.
Yeah.
It's a father who could not care less about his kids versus a father who cares so much it's toxic.
Yeah, too much. Cares too much.
Who cares too much? And I'm like, we can put both of those and we can find a synthesis of ideas of where's where's the healthy middle between the two.
100%.
I think those are, and I also just think, not to be arrogant, I think I'm a good storyteller.
You are, 100%.
I like to think that I am. Like I'm a really, really good storyteller, and I think I have watched enough and read enough to where it's like, if I really sat down and I wrote a novel, I probably could get a good novel eventually. I just think that the medium of storytelling that I like the most is collaborative storytelling through a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
I love, like, even the first official canon adventure we did with little Timmy. I'm trying to remember what the little boy's name was. With the mirror powers.
Oh. Yes. What was his name?
I could look at my notes right now. I'm just not gonna.
Yeah, I could too. I don't remember his name.
But like the little boy and like the Godbloods and all of those, right? Those stories, like, I love telling stories. I think anybody who's worked with me, and if you're listening to the Night Shift, like, you know, I do socials for Night Shift and all of that. Like, I love that crap.
Yeah. Right?
Like, I love helping people convey ideas, but I also love storytelling and I love good content. Right? Yeah. Literally, it's some of my favorite things to do ever. It's just tell those stories and work together to write stories with people. And that moment where I see you, Josh, Kakoa, and Elijah laughing last night at a session because I introduced an NPC that gives you the briefest moment of relief.
Yep, and levity.
And levity after 4 sessions of just nothing but nonstop tension. One, the idea that I can make it so tense, but you guys are still having fun. And then also almost cry of laughter. Watching Josh react last night, almost crying. Like, I love that stuff. But I also, weirdly enough, love the moments where we all can get vulnerable and, like, cry together. Like, oh God, Craig just almost died.
No, literally.
Right? And Kira's being a dumbass and being like, okay, I'll use Revivify now.
But, oh my gosh, I'm still upset about that. I'm still upset about that. Okay, do I tell the story?
You go for it.
Okay, so for context, this was a campaign that we played. I think it was the longest campaign we have to date so far.
Yes. 7 months.
Yeah, 7 months long. We played pretty much every week. Like, we took a week off here and there, but pretty much every week for 6-7 months. And it was teenage characters. So everyone was a teenager. They were thrust into this huge thing, blah, blah, blah. And Elijah's character, his name was Craig. He was 7 feet tall, 9 feet tall, something like that. 8 feet tall. So in the middle. Okay. So 8 feet tall lizard.
Lizard man.
And his name was Craig. And during a combat scene, he got killed. And normally in D&D, if you run out of HP, you are unconscious and you have to perform death saving throws. And so when it is your turn in combat, you roll a... Oh, sorry. I just knocked Preston's hand. I talk with my hands too much. Anyways, you roll a d20, you roll a die, and if you roll above a 10, you succeed. If you roll below a 10, you fail. And you have to get 3 successes in order to be stabilized. But if you get 3 failures, your character is dead. Like, permanently dead. You cannot come back. With one exception. And that one exception is a spell called Revivify. And it can only be performed within a certain amount of time.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute from when this person died. Not when they got knocked out, but when they died. and it's like a super high level spell.
Not even. It's only 3rd level.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or 3rd or 5th level. It's the earliest reviving spell, but its window is so short.
Okay.
That's why you guys were able to use it at the level you were able to do it.
Okay, that's fair. So yeah, that's like one of the only ways you can come back from being dead. And it's within a minute that this has to happen. Otherwise, you're permanently dead. Like, there's nothing to come back from. But so that's what normally happens. However, what actually happened was Preston, through an NPC, hit this character with a spell, and I still don't know what spell it was.
I can tell you now. It was an 8th level spell casted up to 9th level with a 9th level spell slot. So that means it's slightly more powerful.
Yeah.
It's Power Word Kill. It's a modified version of Power Word Kill that was basically used via a 9th level spell slot. So essentially, if they fail the saving throw and they are under amount of, I think, 100 HP is the rules for that. Their HP is up, which all of you are at that level, except for Elijah's character, who only got get hit twice for it to happen.
Yep.
You just drop dead.
Yeah. So if you were under a certain amount of HP, you would just, like, permanently die. Like, no death saving throws, no chance of successes, you are permanently dead. The only thing that can help you is the Revivify spell within 1 minute. And so that happens. Was that the last thing in combat and then the bad guy disappeared, or was there still combat after that?
It was the last thing in combat.
Okay, it was the last thing. So all of us characters see Craig, like, drop to the floor dead. Like, no pulse, can't be resuscitated, like, dead. Not coming back. So all of us, like, people, us, like, in real life, are shook. Like, what just happened? Like, this was the first time that we had experienced a player character dying. Like, this was a huge deal. And so a lot of us were, like, about to start crying and, like, tearing up and, like, almost like panic, but not fully. That sense of, like, what is happening type thing that's just so overwhelming. And so then the characters were feeling that as well. So all of the characters were freaking out, like, oh my gosh, our best friend just died right in front of us. Like, there has to be something we can do. Like, kept trying to do things to help, wasn't working. Like, accepting the fact that Craig just died in front of them. And all of this was happening for a good, like, 5 minutes, both in-game and out of game. And, like, real time and in-game time. And then Kira steps up and says, don't worry, guys, I got this. Or something like that. It's like, don't worry, guys, I have Revivify. Or, like, don't worry,
No, she got
something.
No, I remember it clear.
What did she say?
I remember it clear as day, because I said I was, like, actively keeping a timer of when you guys were talking to other as players versus demo, and she was 2 seconds away from losing it.
Yeah.
Right? And she goes, why are you guys crying? And then taps her staff onto Craig's body and revived him.
Yes. I remember it was something, like, not insensitive. Like, just straight up insensitive as a character. Yeah, she said, why are you guys crying? And then revived him. And none of us knew that she had that spell. If we had known that she had that spell, it would have been different, because we would have been like, oh, like, Thera, like, you need help. But we didn't know that she had that spell. So all of us were so mad.
Now, to be fair, she was playing one of the 2 healing clerics.
That is
true. I mean, healing druids.
That's true.
So, I think in hindsight, you should have seen it coming.
But we didn't know she had that spell specifically. Though.
That's fair. But also,
like, we knew that she had healing spells, but we didn't know she had Revivify.
I would also counter that she was the most experienced player at that table.
Yeah, 100%.
And so she would know that a druid at level 5 would have access to.
Yeah.
To, like, Revivify.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I think that moment's funny, but also I understand why you guys hate that moment.
Yeah. Thinking about it, I still get mad. Like, I love Kira so much. but I hated her character in that moment. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. But like that's the power of like tabletop role playing games,
Yeah.
D&D. It's like, oh, I can feel these emotions, and like I am mad that a character who doesn't exist
Yep.
and only exists in my mind and in my friend's mind and in this world that my friend made up in your boyfriend in this case.
Yep.
In his mind, in his spare time.
Yeah.
And like you still think about that moment and are mad to this day.
Mm-hmm. Correct. I'm mad on behalf of my character.
Yeah.
Like me as Kylie, like I am mad, but I as Kylie am not mad at Kira. I as Takaya am mad at Sarah. Which is such a wild like thing to unpack or like experience or explain. So, but if you get it, you get it.
You know, that exact phenomenon. When was that moment for you where it clicked? Because I can tell you mine. I can tell you mine for that. Mine was, I've talked about with you, there was a campaign we ran from levels 1 to 20 in 5th edition, around the time 5th edition of D&D started. And we ended it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it ran for...
Right before we met.
Right before we met. It ran for 8 years. And I remember that moment clicking for me during that. And that was the longest... I had been playing already for a handful of years. I had played a couple of other TTRPGs, and this was my first time diving into 5th edition, right? And I remember the moment that clicked for me, because that was the first campaign where I'm like, I get that phenomenon right there, was a level 2 friend player's character died, and then that was it. That character we never saw ever again.
Oh, dang.
And that haunted us for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah. I am very blessed and privileged to say that I have never experienced a player character dying,
Yet.
With the exception of Craig.
Yet.
Correct. I'm fully aware that it's going to happen eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But so far, I'm on a good streak of not having that happen. It got very close last night, specifically. Multiple times, actually.
You're being one of them!
Yeah, my character being one of them. So I'm very blessed to have not experienced that, but I fear the day that happens, because I already am so, like, ingrained in my character's emotions that when that does happen one day, it's going to wreck me.
You are going to be in actual mourning.
Literally.
Like, we're going to have to hold a fake funeral for the character.
I'm not that bad. Okay. But I think the moment you're talking about, I think that moment was with Takaya, which was from that same teenage campaign, and it was the scene with her mom. You know exactly the scene I'm talking about.
Would you like to describe it with everyone?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Takaya is... I know that I said that Rue was my favorite, but Takaya is also my favorite. They share the title, okay? I promise it's not.
Is Wendy your favorite?
Not yet, no. Wendy's pretty good, but she's not my favorite yet. So far, it is Rue and Takaya as my favorites. So Takaya was, like I said, a teenager, and she was a sorcerer. And sorcerers are born with their magic. They don't have to learn it. They do have to learn it to an extent, but it's like innate inside
their magic comes from their bloodline or some other magical phenomenon, making it so that it comes from themselves, not I have to learn this incantation.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or I get it from my god or nature.
Right. So she was a sorcerer, but there's this thing in D&D, if you don't know, called a subclass. And
For 5th edition.
For 5th edition, yes. And so your class, so in this case, her class was a sorcerer, and her subclass was it literally just called wild magic?
Yeah, wild magic.
Okay, cool.
It's like the default sorcerer.
Yeah, was wild magic. And wild magic is anytime you cast a spell, you have the chance of something else happening at random. So you roll a die, and there's a chart that a DM has, and whatever number you roll, that effect happens. So it could be that you grow a foot taller. It could be that you shrink 6 inches in height. It could be that you suddenly start levitating and you're now 5 feet in the air just chilling up there. It could be that you... What was it? It was like something to do with feathers exploding or something.
You get a beard of feathers.
Yes, a beard of feathers.
And then you have to roll a con saving throw every turn to see if you sneeze it off.
Yep.
My favorite one that you never rolled, and I hope you're going to roll, is that you could accidentally turn one of your allies into a potted plant for 1 turn.
Yep.
That was one I hope you were going to roll. You never did.
Yep. Or it could be that you... like your skin is now a different color for some reason, or you're bald, or like it could be literally anything. It could be something that affects just you, like physically, or it could be something that affects everyone.
My favorite is casting fireball on yourself.
Yeah. So she was a sorcerer with wild magic, and she was a teenager. And the backstory that I gave her was that she was adopted, but she didn't know that she was adopted. And she was also a changeling. And so changelings are like shapeshifters, essentially. And so she didn't know that she was adopted, and she didn't know she was a changeling, because when she was adopted as a young child, she just like subconsciously like mirrored the people around her. And so she turned into a human, essentially, or like shifted into a human and just stayed like that the whole time. And so she didn't know she was adopted, didn't know that she was a sorcerer even. And so with that, I fed that into the wild magic aspect of she doesn't know she's a sorcerer. So she hasn't been preparing for her powers her whole life. She wasn't prepared for it ahead of time. She has no one to guide her through it because her family is not sorcerers. No one around her has magic like she does. And so she has no control over her powers at all. And so that's where the wild magic comes in. And so she was told to like control herself, and she couldn't go out into like the town square without a guard with her or whatever.
Keep in mind, your character was a rich girl.
Yes, she was. Yeah, 100% Nepo baby, like, very rich, very prominent family within the city.
Amalgamated shipping, basically the Amazon of that world.
Literally. So she couldn't go anywhere without a, like, bodyguard, essentially, and she hated it. So through the character, like, through the campaign, all the things, they go on this adventure, and she finds out that not only is she adopted, but she's also a changeling. And one of the other player characters in the campaign, Farah, who we were talking about, who had the Revivify spell, is her sister. Like, her actual changeling sister. And I, as Kylie, didn't know that she was my sister until the reveal happened.
Kylie's like, I'm going to write in my own twist to my backstory, know about it, not realizing that I was conspiring behind her back with another player.
Exactly. And so she goes on this adventure, realizes she's adopted, realizes she's a changeling, realizes she has a sister, and her sister has been looking for her for years and thought she was dead. And, like, this whole, like, dynamic of, like, just everything that would come with that. And so her whole identity is, like, completely changed, but it makes sense. It tracks. Like, things are clicking into place. She's understanding what's happening. And before she had left, she had a very strained relationship with her mom, because her mom was mainly the one to be like, you can't go out without a guard now. You have to control yourself, rein it in. Like, you can't be having these outbursts, whatever. Like, no one can know that you have powers, all this stuff. So they had a very strained relationship. So they come back after this adventure, and she's very snappy towards her mom, and ends up, like, yelling at her mom and revealing to her mom that she knows she's adopted. She knows that you're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. oh yeah, you didn't realize? Yeah, I know you're not my mom. Like all these things, and they have this argument, but it turns into the mom explaining why she did what she did and how they found me, and like they were doing the best they could with the circumstances they had. Like they just wanted to protect me. It got out of hand and didn't know what to do further from that, essentially. And I remember so vividly, me and you were having this whole conversation, you acting as my character's mom, and we were like not even that far away from each other. We were like 3 feet away from each other.
We were almost like getting in each other's faces.
Yeah, we were 3 feet away from each other, like normally as we're sitting, but we were both leaning towards each other and like yelling at each other in character, going back and forth. And then like my mom said like why she did what she did, why she like essentially low-key kidnapped me as a child. She tried to return me to my parents, but couldn't find my original parents and didn't want to leave this child alone in the woods.
I think you still have a little bit of Takaya bias, because she found a baby with its head cracked open and her cleric friend healed the wound in the middle of a landslide, and they spent 2 days before she decided, I guess I'm adopting this baby, looking around the surrounding areas just to see if the family could be found, but the changelings were all roaming nomads, settling down until they found a place to settle their village and gone.
Yeah, that's fair. So when the mom revealed that, I remember this feeling of like, oh, like, okay, she had a good reason. Oh, but I want to be mad still. Oh, I'm a teenager. I want to be mad at my mom. Oh, but I kind of get where she's coming from. And like, it was literally as if I was feeling those feelings, because I was, but it wasn't me. Like, it was like, oh, crap. Like, I just yelled at my mother for trying to protect me. Why did I do that? No, I'm angry, but I shouldn't be angry, but I am angry. She's my mom. I'm angry at my mom, but she's my mom. Like, it was this whole thing. I think that was my moment. Was that argument with my mom, or Takai's mom.
Yeah. Kylie, we've been yapping for an hour and a half.
Oh, dang. I did not.
I don't think we're going to have enough time for you to explain the current campaign.
Probably not.
However, I do have one more segment I want us to do.
Okay.
I have over here my set of dice. My metal dice. Feel free to roll on the table. You're going to roll 2 times.
Okay.
And then the D20 will determine what 2 questions I ask you for the end of this podcast.
Ooh. Okay, I like this. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right, roll number 1. A 2.
If there is one piece of advice you could give to someone who is getting into tabletop RPGs or D&D for the first time, what piece of advice would you give them?
Try not to have expectations on yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, is because, for me at least, going from watching Critical Role, who are literal voice actors, like, they get paid to act. They win awards for their acting, and their voice acting specifically. So watching them and how they play their characters and how they interact with their characters and build their character relationships and all of that is like so top notch and so good. And so going from that being my only context of DMD to then trying to mimic that and do it to the best of my ability, I found it really hard on myself. I was like so much like self-doubt and like, I'm not good at this. I'm terrible at playing this game. Like, I'm bad at this, whatever. Because I had no further context, but also I had the expectation that it was going to be like Critical Role.
Yeah.
Because again, that's all I knew about it. That's all I had basis for. And so try your hardest to not have expectations on yourself specifically of like how you're going to do and how you're going to act or how you're going to understand the rules of the game or whatever. Like, you're gonna fumble through it. At least a little bit, you're gonna fumble through it. That's just how it is. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to get the hang of. I'm still getting the hang of it, like, 2 years later. I feel like, so, like, you're gonna be fumbling at least a little bit, if not a lot. And that's okay. Like, you don't need to, you shouldn't expect yourself to pick up on it super easily. If you do pick up on it super easily, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I really hope that you still enjoy it and you still get something from that experience. But most of the time, you're gonna fumble through it and you're not gonna pick it up super easily. And so just kind of having that self-awareness going into it and trying not to have these huge, grand expectations for what it could be.
Roll again.
9. Really low rolls. I don't like this die.
That's right, it's metal. If you could pick one other character from a campaign you've played that isn't yours, that you would love to try playing as, who is that character? Describe the character and describe why you'd want to play them.
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have to think. Oh my gosh. Character that's not. I think either Atlas slash, what was it, like Lindsay or
Litzy.
Litzy. Atlas slash Litzy, or currently Adon slash Zillium. Like that whole character dynamic of like hidden identity, or like two characters in one through various circumstances, like that concept is so appealing to me. And at one point, I want to do that. The only reason I haven't done it personally yet is because I don't feel confident enough in my character building capabilities to pull that off nearly as well as Kira and Kakoa have. But I think if that was already like preset for me and already pre-made and I was just picking it up where they left off, I would love to play either of those characters.
Yeah. Real quick. But I don't want to spoil the use accents that said of Dawn. Jevin Zalim.
Oh, yes, Jevin.
Not Josh, I know you're listening. Not to say Adon is an amazing character.
Yeah, I meant Jevin.
But real quick, before we end the show.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Litzy? Who's Atlas?
Oh, yes. Okay, that was from a different campaign that I...
No, that wasn't real.
Yeah, that was... Okay, so I just didn't talk about it. So this was the continuation campaign where I was playing Rue as a robot with, like, toddler emotions. We went on this campaign with a character called Litzy, played by Kira. And she was this super bubbly personality, like super high-pitched voice, just kept talking a mile a minute, very much like, almost like Valley Girl, not quite though.
Valley Girl, bubbly girl.
Yeah, basically. And that was her whole thing, and she was such a fun character. Very much an airhead, very much like, focused on social dynamics and like emotional things and all of that.
Oh my gosh, she's so cute. I'm gonna cry.
No, literally, like very emotional, very, very social, dynamic oriented. And then at one point, probably like a couple sessions in, probably like 5
sessions in.
5-ish. Yeah. So it's been a while with Litzy. And then all of a sudden, I forget why it happened. She like rolled a thing.
She got hit with one attack that took half of her health.
Yes. Yeah. So she got hurt really badly, and all of a sudden she switched. She was a different character, and she was now very angry, very serious, very stoic. Did not know who any of us were, and was very defensive and like combative and angry and all these things. Very stern, like the complete opposite of Litzy. And her name was Atlas. And come to find out that I think it was that Litzy like took over Atlas's body.
Yep.
Like basically possessed her. And yeah, it was a whole thing.
The story we didn't end up exploring was Litzy the cleric worshipped Zariel when she was in this world a goddess. But Zariel, you might run into Zariel in the current campaign you're playing, is one of the archdevils of hell currently in D&D Global.
Great.
And so her warlock patron was Zariel the Fallen. Her cleric god was Zariel the goddess.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So any sort of character where it's like, so in the current context of Jevin / Zolium, where it's the same person, but they've been pretending to be someone else the whole time, and like low-key lying, if not straight up lying about who they've been the whole time. Or it's like some sort of like their souls are combining, or like whatever, or they have a voice in their head or something like that. I just love that character. But I know a lot about used to be called multiple personality disorder, currently known as dissociative identity disorder, or DID. I know so much about DID. And so with that being my favorite character trope, I am also so aware and so sensitive to not playing into the stereotypes that come along with D&D, because a lot of the times if a character in a show or a movie has multiple personalities, or alters as they're now called, if they have alters, one of them is like a murderer, or one of them has superpowers, or one of them is an assassin, or like something so outlandishly like out there, or one of them is evil, or they're possessed, or like something like that. And none of that is true. But in media, that is almost always how they are portrayed. And so with that being my favorite character type, I feel like what I would bring to that character is that sort of sensitivity of like not going into that side of things, while also like acknowledging that it is kind of similar to that. And I feel like I would be able to do it justice in that sense, but I'm not confident enough in my character creating abilities to do that yet. But that is like my goal in life, is to get to that point where I can do something regarding that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have.
All right.
I think we'll have to do, once we're done with this campaign in end of May, early June, I feel like we need to do a podcast episode where it's Elijah, Kakoa, you, Josh, me. Kind of just debrief everything. You guys explain what happened in the campaign. We literally go through your and Josh's notes.
That's going to be like 5 hours.
I'm okay with a 5-hour episode.
That's going to take so long, because there's so much happening.
We could record the podcast episode and then have the month's podcast stuff broken up into 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Because there's so much happening on so many different levels and layers.
Yeah. But I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
Who is your favorite NPC that I've made, and why is it Tavern?
It is Felrin, but also not Felrin at the same time.
Who is Felrin?
All right, so Felrin is the NPC that Preston brought up earlier about bringing levity to a very intense couple sessions. So Felrin is an NPC that is essentially in a pocket dimension, but knows everything about every multiverse. So canon and what's happened in this universe versus our other characters means nothing when interacting with Felrin. And the whole way to get to Felrin is he owns a magic shop. And so anytime you're going to look for magical items and you walk into a store, there's a good chance it's going to be Felrin's store. And so as soon as you walk into this building, you're suddenly transported somewhere else. So when you're outside the building, you might be on a busy street and you go into this ordinary looking building and suddenly you look outside and you're underwater or you're in hell and surrounded by lava, or you're in the sky and there's clouds around. Literally you could be anywhere in any universe. And so Felrin is a 9 feet tall.
9 foot tall?
Yeah, 9 feet tall skeleton man.
Lich.
Wearing a blue bathrobe and nothing else. And so because he's a skeleton lich, he just has this permanent, creepy, Jack Skellington vibe smile going on at all times. And because he is multi-dimensional and he knows everything about every multiverse, he'll just say things that reference other characters that, me as Kylie, I know what he's talking about, but my character Wendy has no idea what he's talking about. And so it is so much fun. It goes into every campaign that Preston DMs. Somewhere along the way, Felrin shows up at least once. But in a previous campaign that we did, the teenage one with Takaya, one of the other player characters just absolutely adored Felrin, and any chance we got, any sort of lull in the to-do list, essentially, anytime we had a okay, downtime. What do you guys want to do for your downtime? She would try and go find Felrin. And so it ended up being every single session, every single week, we would go visit Felrin. And it got a little bit overdone, and so some people started to get annoyed with it, and so we had to kind of rein it back in. So I definitely started to get annoyed. I wasn't as annoyed as other characters or other people playing, but I was just starting to get to that point before we reined it back in. And so Felrin is simultaneously my favorite character, but also as soon as I hear his character music, I get a little bit of at the same time, I dread those first 10 seconds of character intro, but then I fall in love with him all over again.
My last thing. Can you do your best Felrin impersonation?
Oh, welcome to Felrin's Magic Shop and Emporium! Oh, you look so lovely. I love what you've done with your hair. I thought it was red last time. Oh, I must be confused. And then meanwhile, the player character is red? I've never had red hair. What are you talking about?
But your last character did.
But my last character had red hair. Rate my Felrin impression on a scale of 1 to 10.
That was an 8.
Oh, that's so good.
If you were to DM a campaign and you brought up Felrin, I would fully trust you to be able to play Felrin.
I don't trust myself to play Felrin, but I'm glad you think that.
Well, anyways.
There it is.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it was fun.
I know you're dating me, and some people might say that's obligation to be on the podcast.
It is not.
Yeah. People don't know that Kylie will tell me no and tell me to shut up. So.
In a nice way. Unless I'm hungry, in which case
Or tired.
Yeah. Anyways. I'm a nice partner, I promise.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm kidding. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it was fun.
All this week, if you're listening to the podcast live, Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday potentially, you're going to be streaming on our Twitch.
Not Sunday. Sunday's Easter.
Yeah, but we're coming home early, remember?
Oh, that's true. Okay, possibly Sunday.
Yeah, that's why I said possibly Sunday.
Yeah.
You're going to be streaming. What are you streaming right now?
I am streaming a game called Blueprints. I just started it on Monday. It is a rogue type escape room puzzle game type thing.
You were literally one word off. Roguelike.
Roguelike. Dang it.
It means it is like the game Rogue. And the game Rogue was Rogue was the, like on original like old computers, like DOS, like earlier than DOS computers, like the early like Macintosh. Was the first randomly generated every time you play the game. It's a different game, adventure style game. So it's a rogue-like game.
Okay, I was close. Rogue-like escape room puzzle game where your whole goal is to get to the I keep getting the number wrong. 46th room in this mansion, but the mansion only has 45 rooms. And so it's this whole mystery of like, where's the 46th room? It's not on any blueprints, hence the name Blueprints, as in like prince and princess. And so the whole premise is you're trying to get to the 46th room, and so you have to go through all these rooms, but anytime you go through a door, it randomly selects 3 rooms that you can choose from, and they all have different benefits and drawbacks. Some of them have puzzles in them that you have to solve in order to get a reward or a resource. And so you go through, and sometimes you have to place one room before you can do another room, because I'm trying not to spoil it, because something in that room might benefit you or make something easier in another room. And so you have to go through room A in order to get to room B. But you have to figure out which room is which A or B. And not every room is like that. Some rooms, at least from what I understand currently, are just rooms.
Yeah.
Not every room is connected to a different room or has a puzzle in it or something like that. But the whole thing is, at the end of each day in game, everything you have, so every item that you're holding, every room that you've placed, all the coins you've collected, everything gets reset. And there's certain items that move around between different rooms. So some rooms, you will always find coins in this one room. Versus, like, a certain item might be in one of 3 rooms, and you just have to go through and find it. And it's so much fun so far. So yeah, that's what I'm streaming currently.
Yeah, usually around 6 to 7:30 start time, twitch.tv/Preston vs. Elijah for our newer stream segment, Kai's Cozy Stream. Pull it out whenever either Elijah or myself aren't able to stream, and Kai's like itching to play a game. Kylie's not the biggest video gamer in the world, but when she gets the hankering to try a game, she gets the hankering to play and try a game.
Indeed. I also don't usually play games on my own or by myself. I have to be with Preston. I have to be with Elijah in order to have the urge to play a game.
So fair. Well, this has been the Preston vs. Elijah podcast. We record on the first and third Wednesday of every month, but you might be asking yourself, Preston, there's a 5th Wednesday this month. Don't worry. That means on the 5th Wednesday and the first week of Wednesday of next month, we're doing 2 podcast episodes in a row. But we need your help. If you go and and you go to one of our podcasts on one of the podcast services, you're going to see a link that says send text here. Click it. Next week, hopefully, if we get any questions, Elijah and I are going to answer any question you want to ask us via text. So if you have questions, go to our podcast services, click that link, send us a text, shoot us a message, and you could be featured on our show.
Woohoo!
Not only that, but also, Kylie, guess what?
What?
Froggy May's coming.
Froggy May.
We got the Froggy May collection going live on our store. Use exclamation point merch in chat or check the link in the description. It's super cool. It's some of my favorite merch we've ever designed. It's super fun. It'll only be available for the month of May. And if you're listening and you enjoyed us and you're listening on podcast services, rate us 5 stars. Leave a written review. It helps us with discoverability a lot. This is a passion project for Elijah and I, even though that loser isn't here.
Imagine being in Florida.
Imagine going to Disney World and Universal Studios.
Couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me. Wow. Nepo baby.
Oh my gosh.
Anywho, this has been the Preston vs. Elijah podcast. We're going to close this out with our new theme made by my friend Al. Friends are what dreams are made of. We will see you next time. Kylie, any final words?
Stay cool.
Bye!